Yes, good morning and good day or evening, wherever you are joining us from. And welcome to the Women Techmakers Vienna International Women's Day event on the theme Redefine Possible. A few housekeeping things first. You can find the transcripts and the captions in the bottom bar and by clicking the More button. These are the three horizontal dots, and click on the transcription and or enable the captions. This will only appear on your end, so you have to do it manually on your side. With the transcriptions, they will show up on the right bar, and the captions are obviously overlay on the video. Yes. The word for it. So for the Q&A session, you can send your questions directly in the chat during the session, or if you have questions later on, you can also ask the questions, of course, until the whole event ends. I will filter them out for the speakers to answer them even directly after the talk in written form inside the chat. You can also use the Q&A session in case you want to stay anonymous. And I would copy paste the questions into the chat so the speaker can answer them directly after the talk. And if there is not enough time, we also collect all the questions and will answer them via LinkedIn, or there will also be an after report from the whole event. And you can find them on the Women Techmakers website or also on LinkedIn. I will share these things in the end as well. But your answers will not be forgotten. Your questions will not be forgotten and will be answered for sure. Well, then when we are all set up, let's officially start with the event. Today's event, which is organized and moderated by Julia Undeutsch. And I welcome the speakers, Tia, Stefanie, Cathy, Ayu, and Laura. You will hear exciting topics from gender-sensitized language, open source, and how to become a Forbes 30 under 30, and much more. And although this year's theme, Redefine Possible, this is chosen by the Women Techmakers community. It's mostly about AI and how AI could help us break new grounds. This can be read on their official website. I wanted to draw the attention to a slightly different topic. And this is that we women often think way too much that certain things are not possible because we are not good enough in tech, or because we might be over 30 already and everything is way too late to start, or because we have a family and kids and work to juggle, or because our career path has been completely different until now, and all these thoughts of crazy stuff. That's why I particularly am proud to have landed the following speakers who will show you that anything is possible if you dare to do things and don't give up. And the event starts with a keynote speech by Laura Wissiak, who was the first generation in her family to graduate from university, studied Japanese studies, and worked various student jobs in the meantime. And after graduating, she decided to go into a complete different direction, making UX research, accessibility, and inclusion her topic, and making it onto the Forbes under 30 list last year. Hello, Laura. We are ready to go.
Thank you so much for that very fitting introduction. Actually, I love that you already touched upon a few things I will mention in my own presentation. So, yeah, first things first. As you said, I made the last Forbes 30 list, but I'm not here to tell you that this is the be-all, end-all of success. Definitely not. There are, however, some things where I think those are better determinants of success, and that is why I think this fits so well with this year's Redefine Possible. Because as you said, we often tend to hold ourselves up in little holes, what we believe is possible, and then we just don't reach above our horizons. So personally, I'm only on Forbes 30 because I took a huge risk. I mean, okay, maybe not that huge. I don't want to be too dramatic, but it was still quite a risk at the time for me. And it was never something that I would consider, like me being on Forbes 30 under 30. That's usually something that economics major do, right? It's like business people do that, not me. I studied Japanese. I'm a Bachelor of Arts. That's my limit there. And somehow still it ended up being my reality. And that's what I'm here now. So why am I here? I didn't actually think it's possible, but I looked it up while writing the abstract for this talk. It's really only been 3 years since I started working in the tech industry. Before that, I had worked various student part-time jobs, finished up my studies, and then completed a boot camp just to break into tech. I just wanted to get into UX because I thought that's a more sustainable career than Japanese at the time of lockdowns, where no one was even allowed to go to Japan. And certainly there weren't many Japanese people visiting at the time. But still kind of weird to think that it's only been 3 years since then. But exactly in February 2022, I started my first big girl tech job, a UX internship actually, in a big corporate company. And as I said, I always studied for this. I studied Japanese, and I was self-taught for an online course, but the kind where it's self-paced. You basically have to work through everything yourself, and the good and the bad thing about it is you get as much out of it as you put into it. So what I want to say is I don't think this certification does give you a lot of credit to argue with when it comes to going to employers. On the other hand, all of my coworkers, they were hired directly out of boot camps, where all of the other coworkers had attended, or like half of them went to the same boot camp over different years, or had studied something related to web design or industrial design, or at least something in the design complex. I was just here like, yes, I'm new to all of this. This is very overwhelming. And it's safe to say my imposter syndrome was rampant at the time when I started. But looking back at it, I think that was actually one of my biggest strengths, because I didn't feel competent enough to be there. So I tried everything I could to compensate for that. I learned as much as I could. I tried to read up on arguing design decisions, what are best practices, attend meetups, everything. I did all of that just to basically feel more comfortable being here, because I was not at the first time. And because it was just an internship, I thought, okay, let's get the most out of this. I don't know if I'm going to be here next year, so let's just pretend it's certain that I won't be. And I told myself, how much professional growth can you actually fit into 1 year? You only get 1 year, go for it, max it out. So I tried to find that out. And this meant raising my hands for a lot of opportunities that I felt unprepared for, that I felt overwhelmed with, and I was just plain scared. But I decided I had to ignore my feelings and just go for opportunities whenever I see them, because some of those things I learned so much from, but I would have never ever done them if I wasn't literally getting paid to do that. And yeah, some of those were just small-ish things. Now I can say this, they were small, they didn't feel small at the time. Like sharing on an internal call, like a lunch and learn call, facilitating that, talking about accessibility. I was always talking about accessibility because that was and is still my favorite topic. That also helped if you get to talk about something that you like. And with time, I want to say it gets better, but it slightly gets better. You get more used to it. Yeah, you get more used to the discomfort. That's more like it. But as I said, I just had to ignore these feelings of being scared, feeling unprepared, and you just have to go for it. Now, after 3 years, I can actually say with certainty, spoiler alert, the imposter syndrome does not go away. Never, ever. I think I now have a good enough sample size to evaluate this, because I went literally from intern to C-level. I have those accolades where I could objectively argue that I'm good at what I do. Still doesn't mean that I feel like it. Definitely not. There is not a correct correlation between those two. So do not wait to feel like you are good enough to start anything. It's highly unlikely that pound will come. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, if you feel you're competent enough to apply for a job, or if you are the best possible fit for this, don't worry about that. Just try it out and yeah, shoot your shot. That is, I know it's generic advice, but to some extent, that is the best advice you can get. However, I feel like you have to keep it a bit differentiated, because if I say, okay, just go for it, do whatever you want, listen to your heart. Yes, that sounds good in practice, but it's not always practical. However, there are some circumstances where it might be smarter to pass up on an opportunity. If you already have your plate full, if you can't manage another boot camp on top of your student job, then don't do it. Wait for an opportunity where it's possible. For me, for example, the Corona time was very helpful because I finally had the time to sit down and study everything I needed to work through those online courses, get familiar with tools that I needed to work with, and yeah, just learn the tools of the trade. It was like I get a pause button on life, and I was holed up inside studying all this time. And that's what really made a difference for me. After that, I still had to go out into the real world, keep working my part-time job, finish my studies, finish the boot camp, and do the rat race of applying for jobs, getting rejected, hearing back, not hearing back, getting to interviews, and then waiting anxiously. That's just kind of part of it, the part nobody really likes, but we have to get through it. So being scared of it is not productive in that regard. So whenever you think, as soon as you think, that would actually be really, really nice, I really want to do that, that is your sign to just go for it. If the payoff is bigger than the effort you think you would put in, definitely go for it. And this can be small. Like, again, raise your heart for every opportunity. It can be like something presenting to internal stakeholders, or volunteering at a local meetup, or at a conference just to get tickets for free. Or maybe going to a networking event if someone interesting has RSVP'd and you want to chat them up. Like, shoot your shot for a job opening. Whatever you think you don't qualify for, try it anyway. Because again, the small things never feel small in the moment where you want to do them. But afterwards, you will be looking back and think like, oh, that was it? That was all I was scared of? How was that happening? And the next time it will become a bit easier, because the more you prove it to yourself that you can do hard things, the more you will start to believe it. Again, I know this sounds so generic, but still true. Raise your hand for opportunities. Opportunities will keep showing up for you. And once again, just stop doubting yourself about them. Leave that job to other people. You know, it's not your responsibility to doubt yourself. Someone else is out there. Someone is getting paid to evaluate if you would be a good fit for this job. Leave that to them. Let them worry. You just do your best, whatever you can do best in this moment. Hit apply, submit, send, whatever. And it's a question for later. Let them worry about it. Those are all questions that are, logically speaking, out of your control, because someone else gets to judge. Are you the best fit? If you adapt yourself, maybe you are actually the best available person for the job. And if you don't apply, they will keep looking for another month or so. Who knows? And one thing else, challenge yourself to believe, well, challenge what you believe is possible for you to achieve. So redefine possible, as the title says. Because for me, that meant, even though I was skeptic at first about joining up with Hot Tech, I didn't let my doubt take over, because it sounded a bit too good at first, like focusing on UX research. that was just a small part of my previous job. With person with disabilities. Okay, that's like so rare. How often do you see that? And I would really, really love that. And for assistive tech, how cool can it get? Like, is that even possible? Am I allowed to do that? Because that sounds too good to be true. Can I really make my full-time job something that I love to do, that I want to do all the time? And side note on that, if you actually make what you love to do your full-time job, it will not be a full-time job because you will be working even more than that. Like, officially, my time commitment would be 36 hours per week. It's not, I can tell you. It's probably closer to 50 hours because I regularly study for certifications. I write weekly newsletters. Side note, subscribe to LE News on Substack. But I also have to research quite a bit for them. That also takes time. I attend meetups. I go to conferences, online exchanges. I do talks like this. And I love what I do. But I cannot deny that it would be a lot less work if I was only here for the paycheck. But again, I will happily go to a cafe on the weekends, sit down, order an iced matcha latte, and just type my blog post out for 2 hours. That's an ideal Sunday for me because I love this. But undeniably, it's more work than what I was doing previously. And still, if that works for you, all the power to you. But we often don't make this first step, breaking through the fear, just for fear of failure. What if we mess up? So what? You're still gonna die. The world won't explode. You're gonna keep them living. The only things holding you back are probably societal expectations and maybe some peer pressure. And by going for what you want in life, you actually have the chance to filter out who is truly here to see you blossom into your best potential, who truly has your best interest in mind, and whoever will try to hold you down, they will try to get filled out pretty quickly. I know it sounds like I'm pitching you to join my pyramid scheme, like limiting beliefs and everything. I don't like this. I like this phrase, but I don't like it because many life coaches have kind of claimed it. But it is applicable still. Don't limit what you believe about yourself. Like, really challenge yourself to think, is it really my whole potential? Is that really all I got? Because usually it's not. And be critical of anyone who tells you that only everything you need is to work hard enough or just want it hard enough to make it in business. No. But apply the same level of critical thought also to your own thoughts. Are you doing something just because you enjoy doing it? Or do you consider it something you can grow from? Is it something that's expected of you? Or are you here because it fulfills you? Or maybe it just gives you mad bank. Because let's not act like the financial aspect isn't important here, okay? Having a good financial foundation can be the difference between walking away from a job that doesn't serve you, a job that makes you unhappy, and having to stay there because you don't know how to get the next paycheck in. So keep those emergency funds filled, ladies, because peace of mind is worth a lot more than those 3-month salaries. And I will be real about this. Having an emergency fund was actually a contributing factor to my decision to join HopeTech, because startups naturally come with more risk than corporates, right? So it was a big decision for me. What if we fail? What if we go bankrupt? And I felt like, honestly, yeah, I think I can afford this. It's likely that I'm going to find a new job within 2 to 3 months. Should be fine. I'll try it. But what actually sealed my decision was a value decision, because HopeTech aligned with my personal values. And I don't mean only in the sense of accessibility is a must, not an add-on, and everyone deserves equal access. That also, but that in this decision, that was more of a bonus to work something I believe for. But towards the end of my internship, a full-time UX position had actually opened up in the company. Only problem was there were 2 UX interns at the time. We started at exact the same date and no difference in seniority. So it was kind of hard to decide who would get the job, and nobody wanted to make the decision. Obviously, we both wanted to stay in the company, So it was decided that we both had to compete for the role. Yeah, we were not very stoked about that. But given the timing, it was likely that this would be the only shot we get at staying at this company, because our internship was running out in a few months. And when I told people around this, coworkers, friends, family, about this kind of conundrum that, yeah, I mean, sure, I want to stay here at this company because it's comfortable, it's convenient. I know everyone. I like working here. But I don't feel good competing against a coworker, a teammate of mine. Most of the responses were, yeah, it sounds tough, but there's nothing you can do. It's like, what can you do? It's just something you have to do. Like, it's not your fault. Like, just try your best. And I wrestled about that with that decision for about 2 weeks with myself. It really messed with me. And while I recognized that it was, objectively, it was the fairest possible option for both of us, I did not understand the point of it. Because that was my coworker. I liked him. I even consider him a friend now. Why should I compete with him? That's my teammate. Do you want teamwork or competition? It's giving a bit of mixed signals. And in my opinion, we should be working together, not against each other here. So I decided to drop out of the race. If they wanted to keep me as an employee, they would have to make room for another full-time employment. Easy as that. Otherwise, I'm out. I will try to go compete somewhere else for a new position, which would be the same effort, but would make more sense to do it somewhere else than in the same company, right? And yeah, so I decided to email everyone involved that I'm retracting my application on a Friday afternoon, no less. And I put my teammate into BCC so he could see it and have a peaceful weekend as well. And then I shut my laptop, slammed it shut, and I'm still extremely proud of that stunt. Because I did it once, so now I know every time I need to, if I ever have to, I'm prepared to do it again. Because the first time is usually the hardest time. And especially early on in your career, it can pay off so much to stay true to your values, because your career choices at this time will set the tone for the rest of your career ladder. But besides that, the confidence you get from declining jobs that are not meant for you and make you unhappy, it's unmatched. So my advice to you would be do something, anything, doesn't matter, just to prove it to yourself. Now, this doesn't mean you have to quit your job over any kind of disagreement. If you want to, though, the more power to you, definitely. But let's say there's a certification you want to do, or an exam, or anything. But it would entail a lot of work, and you're not quite sure about it. Do that. Go for it. Not so much for the career benefits. Those are also very nice to have, not deniable. But to prove it that you can do it. Just prove it to yourself. For me, that was taking the Japanese language proficiency exam. At the time, it was notorious for being super hard, and many of my peers who went to exchange year to Japan and came back still failed it. So it was kind of like the one dreaded test everyone didn't want to do. And I didn't do an exchange semester. I actually pretty much struggled with a lot of classes in the last year. It was pretty hard, not gonna lie. So at the time I was like, okay, I kind of hate Japanese language now. This is terrible, this is a nightmare. I'm just so happy when it's over. But after that, I decided to try to prove it to myself that I didn't waste 4 whole years studying the language, and that I would actually have some competence, and that I'm just able to talk in Japanese, like understand it. The thing that I tried to do for the last 4 years, the thing that motivated me to sign up for this bachelor. And it was a grind. It was really, really hard. I had to get up at 5 a.m. every morning, or almost every morning, let's be real, to study like 2 hours before I started then my job. But in the end, it paid off because, as you can maybe see, I have it here in my background now. And whenever I'm now scared or overwhelmed about anything, which is a bit more often than I would be happy to admit, I remind myself, hell, you pulled that off. You did that. It can't be that hard. Like, you're gonna be fine. It can be worse than JLPT test. So now whenever I'm scared or overwhelmed, that's my go-to, because I already proved it to myself. I can do hard things. You can do hard things. You got this, girl. And you're actually building confidence by doing multiple scary things. Again, first they sound scary. Yes, it doesn't mean they get less scary, but your confidence grows. It tells you the undeniable proof that you can actually work through it and that you will be fine. And the good news is that actually applies to everything, not just Japanese language, also pivoting in your career, applying for talks, starting a newsletter or a blog, and even for nominating yourself for Forbes 30 under 30. It doesn't get less scary, but you will look back and think, why the hell was I scared of that? That's all of it? So my advice to you is anything you take away from today, and I hope the upcoming speakers will reflect it as well and show you what's possible. Do it scared. Do it anyway. You're gonna be fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. This was really an amazing journey of yours, and I could relate to many, many things. But you were telling us. I would have a question if no one else have a question currently. It would be if you could talk a little bit your current company. So what does HopeTech do, and how does it now fit with your values and what you're doing and enjoying working on?
So HopeTech focuses on research and development of assistive technology, particularly for people with low vision. So anything between having mild visual impairments all the way to full-on blindness. That's a really big spectrum that we cover a lot. We try to cover as much as possible. And 1 second. There we go. And within that, I do mostly research. I'm chief research officer. So yes, I do research. I also do a lot of planning and also a bit of business development within Austria. That's the good thing and the bad thing about startups. You end up doing a lot more than you signed up for, but you also get to learn a lot about that. And in my research, the best part is that I actually get to work with persons with disabilities. So I get to talk to them and find out like what works for them, what are the existing tech solutions that help them in their everyday life, and which ones are meant well intended, but not so practical actually. And based on what the feedback they give me, that's how we try to figure out, okay, what is needed and what actually serves people with disabilities.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
It is.
Yeah, cool though. And congratulations to become Forbes under 30 Austria. Amazing.
Thank you.
But I'm sure you will still have a great journey ahead of you. There's so many things to achieve. Yeah, I think this would be it for now. If there are any questions on Laura, she will be around in the chat. She will answer them in the chat. You can also write in the Q&A if you want to stay anonymous, and I will post them in the chat for you, and she will answer them in written form.
Exactly.
Thanks, Laura. Then I will go over to our next speaker. She will join the presenter mode. And yes, she is live now, unmuted and visible. Nice. Hello, Tia. Yeah, Tia is an ex-teacher and she turned into a full-stack developer with a focus on sustainable web and climate tech. Very interesting. And she will take us on a journey of seeking answers for measuring and reducing software's environmental impact by using free resources, starting giving talks and meeting like-minded people. Yes, the stage is yours, Tia.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you, Laura, for the talk. Yeah, public speaking always feels scary to me, but yeah, here I am giving another talk, and let me share my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay,
Thanks.
yeah, it looks good. Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Nguyen. You can call me Tia, and I'm a full stack developer with a focus on sustainable web. But first, let me tell you about how things all began. Right, so I moved to the UK 2 years ago with 6 months of experience by doing internship and freelancing. But the tough job market hits me straight away with layoffs and hiring freeze. I had no professional connections, no access to boot camps or apprentice scheme. Apprentice is a kind of earn while you learn entry roles backed by the government. So it felt a little bit impossible to land a role. But what's certainly available to me is time and plenty of curiosity. I noticed that people here care a lot about eco-friendly products, carbon footprint. Talking about the IT industry over the years, hardware has been made so much more efficient and environmentally friendly. You may even see energy or eco rating on them. But what about software? What's their impact on the environment when companies are using large and complex software? Also, the training and using AI can be very energy intensive. With that question in mind, I started to learn about green software. So today's talk is about how green software shapes my path and opens doors. Okay, if I had to choose one free resource that everyone can start with, whether you are a DevOps, a cloud engineer, AI engineer, I would definitely go for Green Software Foundation. There is one of the first organizations that do extensive research on sustainable software. You can find a lot of case studies and frameworks that inform you of the recent sustainable practice. For me, I just took their free course on green software for practitioners. The course told me about essential concepts such as what is carbon emission, what is e-waste, the use of water to uh, cool down to run the data centers, for example, and also some low carbon sources of energy, how to estimate that and putting them in suitable scopes, right? But my focus is the web, sustainable web. So my next stop will be the Green Web Foundation. And on the Green Web Foundation side, you will find a list of green hosting providers. So they commit to renewable energy. Okay, let me quickly show you the Green Web Foundation here. I think their most popular tool is the CO2JS, and this tool is adopted by many carbon calculation tools. But due to the time constraint, I'm just gonna show you how I'm using the tools for simple websites. For example, this one is called EcoGrader, and you could just enter your URL here and you submit. It should show you a report about the emission per page views. So there is a site that I was already tested. and it's rated A because it's quite friendly compared to other sites tested by the tool. And it also shows you the areas you could try to improve. You can see a bit of overlap between sustainability and performance here. Okay, so one area, I did optimize the images, the media, but one thing I could further improve is the green hosting. So 0 out of 100. I hosted the site on for sale, and here they just suggested to me maybe I can refer to this list of green hosting to see if I can find better alternative. So you can try this at home. Let me go back to the slides. Okay. But one important note here when you trying the tools out there, so make sure you study the tool's methodology carefully. You can always refer to the how it works or methodology session where they will tell you how they do the estimation, the calculation. You use the tool to be more aware and mindful of your digital impact and find a way to optimize it. And please avoid making any claims that may be seen as greenwashing. For example, oh, my site is definitely eco-friendly, my site is better than yours, something like that. Okay, so after estimating the carbon emission, what else can we do? What if I told you that we could try reducing the carbon emission produced by the end user devices like the phones, the laptops? That is when the grid awareness approach comes in. So you know that your electricity comes from many sources, maybe from renewable sources, maybe from fossil fuels, gas. So let me show you one good application of the grid aware approach. So this is my favorite magazine about sustainable internet, sustainable web. You could see that I'm visiting the site from the UK, and now the grid intensity in the UK is quite high, which means there's more electricity generated using the fossil fuels and the gas. So you could see the site show less elements, no images at all. If on a good day and the grid intensity is low, it will show you the full user experience. So I think that is a good way, a good practice to adopt in the future. And not just limited to the UI. Maybe you could schedule your CI/CD tasks accordingly. When the electricity is clean, you can do more energy consuming tasks. When electricity comes from not so clean sources, you try to delay that a little bit further. And that's all about the grid aware approach. And for myself, I also try to apply this approach by going to hackathon, and my team utilized the National Grid API to inform the users of when they should push the code. You know that the junior software engineers, they are not taught about green software at school or at the boot camps yet. But now they know they don't have to wait until they become seniors to start taking actions. They could just be more mindful about when to push their code, when to do more energy consuming activities. Right. Everyone has a role to play, but for me, my role here is to simply spread the words, advocating for sustainable web while improving my technical skills. As you can guess, I'm trying to go to more local meetups, meeting more like-minded people, applying to talk at local conferences, although I'm quite scared of public speaking. Last time I checked, I did not see a green tech community in Vienna yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but you can always build one or form a learning group about sustainability. So on this journey, I have received a lot of opportunities that may be collaboration opportunities, some freelancing projects. So after I did some TED Talks, and some people just came to me asking me to work on their projects. And I also got the chance to interview with purpose-driven or climate tech companies where I share about what I'm passionate about. And last but not least, personal branding. This is something I did not expect at all, but people start to remember me as someone who care about sustainable software, the green girl, the girl who care about trees, something like that. Okay, and one interesting thing is recently one of the freelancing project led me to Spell. I love React. I love Vue as a front-end developer, but Svelte is something quite different. It uses a compiler to generate minimal and highly optimized JavaScript code. The outcome here is smaller application bundles and better performance. So their approach is quite aligning with my eco-friendly values. On top of that, Svelte also provides accessible platform for your app by default. Their built-in accessibility warnings remind developers to be mindful of accessibility. For example, you should provide captions for your videos. It's essential for users to follow along. Or if you already use the alternative attribute, you don't need to say photo, image, or picture of you because the screen reader already announced that. So it will give you some warnings, some notice like that. But be careful that they don't check everything for you. So you're still responsible for making sure that your application, your code is accessible. But why I'm talking about accessibility here? I believe that sustainability requires a holistic approach. Uh, so a performant and accessible app also consumes less energy. Right. That brought me to my last point. My journey with the green software also helps me see a bigger picture, putting together what I'm learning, connecting the dots. And reflecting on my journey, my steps can be summarized as follows. First, find a purpose, have a vision, maybe choose something that you are curious about, and do it in public. Share, talk, join community, and lastly, keep doing what you are doing. Be persistent. Because I believe that a small step toward growth is a powerful step in the right direction. Maybe I can't always figure things out, but I will keep going and things will unfold for me in the end. So today, let's take your first step in making apps and software more sustainable. And yeah, that's everything about my talk. If you have any questions, you can just drop your question below or can connect with me on social media. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tia. It was a very inspiring story and an interesting career path, and also the whole topic on this sustainable technology and code. There was a comment inside the chat from Daniel. He was saying that the German public sector, they prepare some green coding guidelines and hosting guidelines in their public tender, especially with the focus on energy consumptions. If there's something you want to comment on.
Oh yeah, so about the guideline, I think last December the W3C also published their guideline about sustainability web as well, and I'm not sure about the UK yet, but they may soon develop their guideline as well. But yeah, I will have a look at this because I could see that green software has been making great progress. More people talking about it, more policy and yeah, regulation guidelines about how we should adopt this in the future. And because we are entering the net zero, and of course, the carbon emission from your digital product should be included in your annual report as well. So people start to put in their digital carbon emission into their scopes of their report. So this is something that yeah, we're trying to do more in the future.
Yeah, cool. And one question would be from Nibedita. If you want to answer it in spoken, just curious to know, can we run any huge content website following green software guidelines?
Green software guidelines. So huge content website. Okay, so for now, the tool that I just showed you earlier can't check any site with the login information. So they just check like the public pages. So for bigger apps, more complicated apps, I would refer you to the Green Software Foundation. They have the impact framework and they have like more holistic approach you can apply and estimate the carbon emission. But for the guidelines, it's quite general. I think you will build quite good at following the general guidelines. But if you want to talk about estimation, we need a framework for that. And the Green Software Foundation is the place that I will refer to for the bigger app. Yeah, cloud, yeah, AI, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks you. Thank you. We will share, of course, all the slides and all the links and some what is mentioned during the whole talks afterwards with you, so the attendants will get all the information they want to. Yes, I think this would be it. Currently, no further questions. You can ask questions to Tia's talks or also to Laura's talk during the whole event. Feel free to use the chat or also the Q&A section. I make sure that the questions in the Q&A section, which is anonymous, will also be forwarded to the speakers. So for our next speaker, which is Cathy, I will get her on board. And she is fully set up, as I can see. So yes, our next speaker is Cathy. She is an established front-end web developer with a passion for accessibility. She recently passed the CPAC Certified Professional in Accessibility Core Competencies. Yay, congratulations. Exam and is currently volunteering for the Women Who Code subgroups, Front-End Queens, and the Women Coding community. Yeah, we are looking forward to your presentation, Cathy. I will stop sharing the screen and you can now set up your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Julia.
Nice, everything is set up. Then
nice.
we can
go. Welcome to the talk. I met my younger self for coffee. I hope you've been enjoying the talk so far from Laura and Tia. I'm Cathy Chi, and I will be giving you, in my younger self, tips I've learned in life and during my 10 years working in tech. If you're on social media like Instagram and TikTok, I'm sure you've heard of the trend, I met my younger self for coffee. It's a phrase people use to reflect on their past, to see how much they've changed through the years, being older and wiser now. So, just a little bit about me. I am a senior front-end web and mobile developer, the content and documentation subgroup leader for front-end queens. I studied computer science with artificial intelligence. I'm living in London and I like to travel and journal. So here's 3 tips to my younger self. Tip number 1, take the time to discover yourself. Find your passion. Honestly, I came across computer science when I was flicking through uni courses I could do and thought to myself, I'm good at maths and okay with computers. I didn't really find my passion for tech until I was asked to fix some accessibility issues at work. I found it interesting because there was something new I've never thought about before, and learning what I needed to do for my job was only just a start. I wanted to learn more, which is how I found myself in contact with Julia and joined a web accessibility study group where I could learn with others. My younger self didn't really have a passion, goals, and was jealous of seeing other people be more successful. Of course, I didn't really understand that I was on my own journey and going at my own pace, and that social media only shows one side of a story. It doesn't show what other people faced, how hard they struggled, and maybe I didn't actually want what they have. Another reason why discovering myself is so important to me is because during my own journey, I found out in my 30s that I'm neurodivergent. Neurodivergent describes the minority that diverts neurologically from said norm according to NHS England. Here are just some of the neurodivergent conditions. Maybe you've heard of some of these before. Firstly is autism spectrum disorder, which was what I was diagnosed with. Others are attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, Tourette's, bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. 80% of autistic women are misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at 18, like I was. And with public waiting lists being years long, it's hard to get a diagnosis at all. While it was such a huge shock finding out I'm autistic, things started to click into place as to why I am the way I am. I stopped hating myself for finding things difficult and tried finding alternatives or focused on the things I could do. The reason why I talk about this is because discovering myself led to more research to understand my condition, and I feel like I'm able to advocate for my own needs, such as in the workplace. Second tip, be open to opportunities, but remember to rest. Public speaking, or speaking at all, doesn't come naturally to me. I was volunteering for Women Who Code Front End, and one day they needed someone to moderate one of their events and I volunteered. I told the organizer that this is my first time and asked about the structure of the talks. I showed up to the event, even though I was nervous, and honestly, she didn't even expect me to. Of course, it wasn't perfect since it was my first time, but I was proud of myself for moderating and trying something new. I later contributed more to the community by moderating more events, even bringing on speakers. And now that person is in front of you, speaking at an event for the first time, and hoping you'll be inspired by my story. Honestly, I'm still nervous, but I'm not letting my fears stop me from what I want to do. After the collapse of Women Who Code Front End, we rebuilt ourselves as front-end queens, and I was recommended to be a subgroup leader. Of course I was scared, and honestly thought about turning it down. I hadn't led a team before, and didn't know what I'd be doing, but honestly, no one did either because we were starting a community from scratch. But you know what? I went for it, and I don't regret that decision. I've learned how to better support others and communicate with my teammates, and I'm proud of our work together for the community. You have so many more opportunities to grow and gain when you put yourself out there, as scary as it is. There are things that you try that you won't be good at, but you can always gain from these failures. This is a quote for one of my favorite podcasts, Voice Hugs. Some of you might be thinking, remember to rest? Yes, there's a lesson to learn here. Just around the end of last year, actually, I found myself feeling burnt out. The definition of burnout is a state of physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. It can occur when you experience long-term stress and feel constantly under pressure. I was pushing myself to attend every event on top of doing a full-time job, volunteering, learning Japanese, and general life things. At peak burnout, I found myself forever tired no matter how much I slept. I was always stressing on things that I needed to do, and the list would never end. And I would be highly irritable, especially if there were things stopping me, like even getting sick. You can do anything, but not everything all at once. Like the quote says, I really was trying to do everything all at once. And I only really started to recover slowly from burnout after dropping Japanese classes. It was hard because I've been learning for 15 years, but it wasn't something that would help me achieve my short-term goals. I also toned down the amount of events I was going to and put a pause on my volunteer work. I realized that I needed to slow down, rest, and focus more on my core needs. I started to, very slowly but surely, feel better again, good enough to start contributing more to my volunteer work, and I was awarded fastest growing leader. After that, I focused on studying so I can pass an accessibility exam. So it really was just taking it one step at a time. Younger me was frustrated with where I was and wanted to change things quickly, but that came at the expense of my own mental health. Third and final tip, find your community and people who uplift you. Younger me thought that networking was all about pretending to be someone I'm not and trying to get people to give me a job. But I realized that networking is more like building up a professional friendship in a way. I've met people through conferences, neurodiversity, and women in tech communities. Often we'd be talking about what we've been learning or different hobbies, and find a lot of them inspirational because of the level of knowledge they have, and it makes me want to learn more too. Here are some of the communities which I'm part of. Of course, there's Google developer groups. Thank you GDG Vienna for giving me an opportunity to speak and share my story. The others are Women Techmakers, Front-End Queens, Women Coding Community, She Bites Back, and Neurodivergent Techies. You can be inspired by those who look like you, by those who come from a similar background, by those who are doing things you find cool, and you can inspire others too with just your story that you're writing, even if you're just starting out. People want to get to know who you are and what you're passionate about. Okay, to summarize, the tips are, take the time to discover yourself. Be open to opportunities, but remember to rest. Find your community and people who uplift you. If you met up with your younger self for coffee, what would you tell them? Thank you for listening to my talk. You can either connect with me and ask me any questions, either in the chat or through LinkedIn on my Blue Sky. So on LinkedIn, it's CATHYCHI1, or on Blue Sky, it's CATHY_codes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing this personal story with us, Cathy. I hope that many people, especially women, will take your tips and finally start thinking about these things so they can live their lives the way they really want to and get the job they really want and not give up. There are also very nice comments. First of all, many congratulated you to passing the CPEC exam, and also Nivedita said thank you for bringing up the important topic of burnout, and they also believe that taking a pause before you come back again on the track is very much needed, and which we all should acknowledge and talk about it. So thank you for that. And also other people, thank you. Stephanie says, thanks for sharing your story, Cathy. What a nice idea to meet your younger self for a coffee. I also did not know about this topic at all, so I was very surprised when you brought it up, and I found it really, really cool. I think this should, maybe everyone of us should do that. And yep, that's very nice. Yeah, many nice comments. You can read them later on. Thank you. This would be it. You can also, during the whole session, ask your questions in the Q&A section or in the chat for everyone, for Cathy, Laura, Tia, and all the future speakers, of course. Yes. Thank you. Then I will go over to our next speaker, which will be Stefanie. She is coming now, setting everything up, her video, and unmute herself. I will, of course, introduce her. We are now welcoming Stefanie, who is currently working in the university marketing, where she is responsible for the development of the website and newsletter tools, content preparation and support and training for over 150 editors. And accessibility is a heartfelt passion of hers, and she strives to integrate it into all her activities, raising awareness for this very crucial issue. So Stefanie, the stage is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for your introductory words, Julia. So I will quickly share my screen. One moment. So.
Yes, everything is visible and set up. Let's go ahead.
Okay. So hello, everyone. I'm very pleased that so many of you are here today. My name is Stefanie Gilber, and I'm thrilled to share my talk on digital accessibility and gender-sensitive language with you. Before we dive in, I would like to say a few words about how this topic relates to my work and today's event. I don't come directly from the tech world, at least not at first glance. But as the saying goes, everyone starts small, even in the tech industry. So I'm still at the beginning, but I've taken the first step. And yeah, as my previous speakers also already told, every step, no matter how small, is a step forward in the digital world. My job and studies have sparked my interest in digital accessibility. And every day I engage with it, my desire to enable equal participation for all people grows. I'm determined to convince as many people as possible to do the same. So this is just the beginning, and I'm thrilled about everything that lies ahead and the incredible journey this path will take me on. The Women Techmakers community is the perfect embodiment of this spirit. It's about empowering women and people with disabilities in the tech industry by providing opportunities for learning, innovation, and growth. The cornerstones of this community are inclusion, respect, collaboration, and continuous learning. And I am raring to get stuck in. This is something I'm sure will encourage you too. Don't be afraid to try new things, even in areas that may be dominated by men. It's never too late to make a difference and advocate for more inclusion and collaboration. Earlier, I told you that my job and studies sparked my interest in accessibility, but how did I come to engage with this important topic? I've been working in the marketing team of a university for about 6 years now. And I'm responsible for the development of the website and the newsletter system, more from a conceptual, content, UX perspective, and in close collaboration with the technical team. On top of that, my day-to-day work involves supporting and training over 150 editors. Shortly after I started, the topic of accessibility arose, mainly due to legal requirements in Austria. At the same time, the topic of gender-sensitive language became more prominent again with the introduction of the 6 gender entries in the Central Civil Status Register. Since starting my master's degree in information design in 2021, I've been eager to dedicate my thesis to this topic. I wondered, how do people with disabilities perceive gender-sensitive language in German, especially forms that do not only consider the binary gender system? The public debate about accessibility or of gender-sensitive formulations with punctuations and special characters was controversial and strongly influenced by the question of how different screen readers reproduce these formulations. I jumped at the chance to explore this fascinating topic, especially since there was so little scientific research available. I decided to investigate how blind and visually impaired people perceive gender-sensitive formulations in the German language. So you might be wondering, why is she talking about the German language in an international talk? I totally get it. But fear not, German can be a challenge, but that just makes it all more exciting. In English, many things are easier, but the German language has its own unique charm too. It's incredible how they come up with these amazing words like Donau-Dampfschifffahrtsgesellschaftskapitän Innenmütze. Yes, it's a very specific term, and it's one word, and which can also be formulated in a gender-sensitive way. But hey, we German speakers love to be creative when it comes to our language. Okay, enough of the introduction. Now it's time to get down to business. Today, I'm going to present you with the most important results of my research. I hope there will be time to answer some questions at the end. If not, we can clarify this afterwards, or you can also write me on LinkedIn. I'm going to give you a brief rundown of what my talk is about so that we are all on the same page. Gender-sensitive language is about how we represent people in our language so that all genders are represented, and in a way that doesn't just take into account the binary gender system. To understand this, we need to distinguish, especially in the German language, between biological sex, social gender, and grammatical gender. We will take a closer look at this in a moment. Take, for example, the generic masculine. This is often such as the word Lehrer, which is the German word for teacher, used to describe a group of teachers regardless of gender. But here is where it gets really interesting. This approach often leaves out many women and non-binary people, as the cross-gender masculine is essentially the same as the pure masculine form. Studies have shown that formulations with the generic masculine are primarily associated with men. This is really interesting because language shapes our thinking. If only men are visible, we are more likely to think that only men are represented in a certain professional field. But how can we make women and other genders visible? One possibility is to mention both genders. For example, Lehrer und Lehrerinnen, which is male and female teachers. But what if we want to address all gender identities? Then we can use neographies like forms with symbols such as asterisk, colon, or underscore, which is spoken like LehrerInnen. The symbol is read here as a pause, which is called glottis stop. Or we can leave gender out or we can leave out gender completely and use neutral terms such as Lehrkräfte, which is similar like teaching staff. With its grammatical gender and free genera, German is one of the languages with the strongest gender anchoring. In English, the lack of grammatical distinction makes it easier. Teacher remains teacher, regardless of gender. In recent years, however, the singular pronoun they has become established here in order to formulate in a gender-sensitive way, as in, if someone needs help, they, instead of he or she, can always ask me. Swedish also has a gender-neutral pronoun in the form of hen. In languages such as Spanish or Portuguese, suffixes such as x or e enable gender-sensitive formulations, while French uses the medial point or the pronoun elle. And if you're interested in learning more about gender-sensitive language in other languages, I highly recommend checking out the Language Index of Grammatical Gender Dimensions or the International Guide to Gender-Inclusive Writing. The issue of accessibility of websites and digital content is just as crucial. Did you know that almost 20% of the Austrian population live with physical or cognitive disabilities as of 2022? This makes accessible digital content not just a nice to have, but a necessity. And here's where it gets really exciting. Gender-sensitive language and digital accessibility are in tension. However, both are essential in order to promote an inclusive society in which neither people with different gender identities nor people with disabilities are excluded. To make web content accessible to all, the web content accessibility guidelines are the key here, and they are based on 4 principles. Content must be perceivable, operable, understandable, and the use must be robust with respect to assistive technology. While the 13 guidelines and 86 success criteria of WCAG 2.2 may not specifically address gender-sensitive language, in my opinion, the principles can and should be applied to it. Gender-sensitive language, after all, should be perceptible, usable, understandable, and correctly reproduced by voice outputs. Now comes the exciting part, my research. The literature research has shown that words with gender symbols are often difficult to understand and are often not rendered correctly by voice output. I wanted to take a closer look at this and found out exactly what requirements blind and visually impaired people place on gender-sensitive language. I wanted to find out which formulations work well in terms of perceptibility, comprehensibility, and how well they work with technology. So I used qualitative research methods for my study. In a first step, I collected the requirements of blind and visually impaired people in the form of usability tests and problem-centered interviews, and then discussed the results with experts in the context of expert interviews. I decided to do a usability test first, so the test subjects wouldn't know it was about gender-sensitive language. The idea was to see if there were any problems with gender-sensitive wording in a natural way. I asked the test subjects to check some websites for accessibility and pointed them to text passages with gender-sensitive wording. If they found any accessibility problems, they would be interviewed straight away. If there were no problems, the interview started after the test. The following variants of gender-sensitive language were examined. Detailed use of both forms, so male and female, integrative paired forms like the capital letter I inside the word, neographies with special characters like asterisk, colon, and underscore, and neutralizations. The detailed use of both forms was understandable for the test subjects, but their length was problematic for quick readability for both screen reader and Zoom users. Integrative paired forms like the capital letter I inside the word also caused no perceptual difficulties for the test subjects and were correctly reproduced by voice output, but are no longer considered as up to date. The problem with neographs is that most of them are rendered verbatim by text-to-speech software, except for the colon, and this interrupts the reading flow enormously. So many screen readers or voice output read, like in the previous example, Lehrer Stern innen. There is no problem with the colon as it generally occurs before enumerations, statements, or announcements, and it is also read as a pause here. The length of the pause in the colon differs from the length of the usual pause in gender-sensitive formulations, but the longer pause did not pose a problem for the interviewees. The visually impaired respondents also had no problems with the perceptibility of the colon. They perceived the colon positively as it keeps the words compact in contrast to underscore and asterisk. Neutralizations like Lehrkräfte, which is similar to teaching staff, were the preferred choice as they did not impair any as incomprehensibility or perceptibility. The results show that no form has a big impact on how easy it is to read. The interviews showed that what's been said in public about the topic. Personal attitudes and ideological values have a huge impact on how this is dealt with. If people think it's important to use gender-sensitive language, the exact forms used aren't as important as using language that is gender sensitive. If the masculine is seen as gender inclusive, we can spot problems with all other forms. So when you're writing texts that are sensitive to gender for blind and visually impaired people, there are a few things to keep in mind. 1, use gender marking terms only when they are really relevant. Otherwise, just use neutral terms like Menschen, which is people, or Studierende, which is students. 2, keep gender-sensitive wording short and use a compact symbol that language outputs can reproduce correctly. At the moment, the colon is probably the best option. And last but not least, 3. If you do use a symbol or whatever your form you choose, you should use it consistently. Yeah, so we've come to an end. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward for chatting more and all your questions, either now or on LinkedIn.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stefanie. Very interesting and also a funny topic. And also, I think it's very interesting that this is a topic which you have embarked on your career path towards accessibility. And I hope this was just the beginning. And here is to more exciting talks in your future and to be active. And also, yeah, thank you for your witty introductions to the weird German language. It is certainly a very specialized language with probably far too many rules, I would say. This often makes it, especially for me, also very difficult to learn another language, such as Japanese, because in Japanese you say not even 50% of what we are saying in German in a sentence or a paragraph, it's not even 50% can be translated. And this is so, you have to think so much less than in German because you have so many words I really
Yeah.
don't know how people learn German in general.
Yeah, it's a very
difficult.
difficult language, and I chose a very specific term, so this is not a normal word, I think. But I just make it a little bit, yeah, point out some speciality. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very, very funny, indeed. Yeah, I think there are currently were no not questions written into the chat, but if questions appear during other talks, please feel free to use the chat or also use the Q&A section. The speakers are still around and you will answer them directly in the chat. In the Q&A section, you can ask your questions anonymously if you don't want to have your name out there, so I can post them. And yes, do you have something else to add, or?
Oh, I think it's fine at the moment. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you more now or later on LinkedIn. So don't, come on, get over it and share your thoughts with me. I'm happy to chat with you forever.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Stefanie. So she's still around in the chat. Make use of it. Then I will announce our last speaker for tonight. It's you. I will also bring her now on stage. And then she has time to set everything up, turn on the video, and also unmute herself. I will introduce her shortly. Well, yes, so last but not least, of course, we're welcoming our speaker, Ayu. Her journey is in tech started with learning HTML and CSS and JavaScript, but as technology progressed, so did her skills. And she's now become proficient in React and Git and GitHub, and is also familiar with agile methodologies. And Ayu loves to learn new technologies and shares her knowledge with others, which she will also do now. She also writes many blog posts. You should check them out in the video. Short advertisement. And we're excited about what Ayu has to share with you. So the stage is yours.
Hey, thank you so much, Julia. So, hi everyone. Thank you for having me here this evening, or afternoon, or morning, depending on wherever you are. So, I've been in the tech space for a while now, and oh my God, I haven't shared my screen.
That's why I'm still here.
I'm sorry. Hi, friends.
No worries. We have time. No
let's
worries.
see. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was too excited, friends. So let me see. Super excited for this talk because it was previously like so many great talks before me. So
now we're seeing everything. Okay, the stage is yours.
Okay,
Are you
cool.
Let's get
Thank
started.
you. Yeah. So again, hi everyone. Thank you for having me here. So I've been in the tech space for a while now, and throughout the years, some areas of tech have become my happy place and where I grow. I'm talking about open source, tech community, and technical writing, particularly documentation. That's why I'm so excited to be here today to share some of what I've learned along the way. Now you might be wondering, what have I learned? Well, I'm glad you asked. You know, it doesn't matter which skill level you are or how long you've been in the industry, but I learned many of us have amazing insights and experiences in tech. And I always believe that everyone has the potential to share their story and knowledge in many ways, and one of them is writing. I see more and more developers are interested in tech writing. However, I also notice that some people have things holding them back from getting started. And I was one of these people. So today, I will share this journey with you. It's a story about finding my path in tech through writing. I hope you can get something valuable from this talk. Oh, I've talked a lot and just realized I haven't introduced myself. Hi, I'm Ayu. I am Indonesian and I live in the Netherlands. I'm a technical blogger I share my articles on my blog at adiati.com. I'm also an open source maintainer and contributor, and currently I'm the documentation and monthly challenge team lead at the virtual coffee community. Also, if you like photography and iced coffee, I think we can be friends. Anyway, if you want to connect with me, you can find me anywhere online at Adiati IU, except on GitHub, where it's at Adiati98. So let me tell you a little bit of my background. A few years ago, when my kid was still 2 years old, I wanted to write a blog on WordPress about living abroad with a toddler. And I told a friend about this. Then she asked me, why don't I learn programming and create my own blog? And I was like, but you need a computer science background to be a programmer, right? And my friend said, no. Then she assured me that anyone can learn it, even without any technical background. So I did my research, found Free Code Camp, and here I am today. It feels like yesterday, but this picture was taken a few years ago. As you can see here, I was taking notes during a learning time with this smiley icon on my lap. Well, that's my daughter behind the icon. Anyway, I don't know about you, but I like to take notes with a pen and notebook when I'm learning something. Like, somehow, if I've written something on paper, I can remember that I've gone through the topic. And I know that I can get back to the notes if I need them. But there is one big problem with physical notes. They can become a total mess. Most of the time, it's challenging for me to find my notes when I need them. Okay, a friendly warning here. You cannot unsee the next slide. Well, I'm actually embarrassed to share the next slide with you, but I want you to understand what I was talking about. So here it comes. Ta-da! The image you see here is one of my physical notes. You can see arrows and bullet points here, and there are many of them all over the place. Well, I can't help it because I love to have them when I take notes. And I have lots and lots of notes like this in my notebooks. So now you can imagine how chaotic they are. That's why I wanted to move these notes to a blog, to organize them and make them easy for me to search and maintain. But the thought of starting to write, that was a different game, friends, because that was super terrifying. You know, I had these thoughts. If I put my notes there, then they would be public, right? Anyone could read them, and of course, anyone could give feedback. This could either make or break me. Well, I definitely didn't want to be broken, so these thoughts made me so nervous and doubt myself. In the end, there were two big fears that successfully held me back. First, I thought, well, there are already so many articles on these topics that I want to write. If I wrote one, would mine be useful? And worse, would anyone even read it? The second one, which was my biggest fear and still is one of my fears, was that English is not my first language. I worried that no one would understand me. And what if I made many grammar mistakes, or, if I misled people with incorrect information just because I didn't know how to explain technical concepts in proper English? I totally lost my confidence at this point. So I never started writing. But one night, I couldn't sleep. I finally decided to give writing a shot for the first time. And I was super excited. So I wrote 2 drafts of articles on Dev2. After publishing the first one, I checked on it the next day. It didn't get any feedbacks, comments, or reactions. Then I published the second one, hoping that it would be better than the first, right? However, after some time, I got a few reactions for both of these articles. I felt like everything that happened had confirmed my fears. I thought it was true that my English was very bad and no one was interested in reading my articles. So, yeah, I stopped writing because I believed that I just, wasn't good enough. But then one event came, followed by others, and became my turning point. When COVID hit in 2020, I found and joined a virtual coffee community. For you who don't know, virtual coffee is an intimate group of developers at all stages of their coding journey. Well, in November, to celebrate National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, we did a blogging challenge. We collectively wrote blog posts to reach 50,000 words in a month. Honestly, I didn't want to participate. Of course, I didn't. But after seeing other members' articles and their enthusiasm to get those 50,000 words in, I finally did it. I thought it'll be so much fun to do this with the community. And it was. But actually, the main reason I decided to participate was that I had changed my way of thinking. I no longer think about who will read my articles or if anyone will understand as long as I do. Because I decided to write for myself, for the future me who will need these notes. And now that I had my notes online, I was so happy because I finally could organize and quickly get back to them whenever needed. Well, I never thought, let alone dreamed about this, but slowly, my articles and I started to get recognized on various tech blogging platforms. Some of my articles got into the top 7 on Dev2, and some others featured on CodeNewbie and Hashnote. My first published article for Free Code Camp also got into the weekly newsletter of its founder, Quincy Larson. If I had not changed my perspective, and started writing again, and with the support of the community, continued writing, I would have known that I could achieve this milestone. Looking back, I learned 2 valuable lessons from these experiences. First, your weakness can become your strength. It really is possible. I discovered that my weakness, my non-native English, helped me to write in simple and accessible language, making my articles easier to understand and also relatable to a wider audiences. It also made me pay more attention and have an eye for detail. Second, I learned that your unique perspective can resonate with someone, even if the topic you share has been covered before. I think you may have experienced this yourself, like, when you learn something new, right? Maybe the tutorial from writer A is easier for you to understand than from writer B. But someone else might find writer B more straightforward. So what I'm trying to say here is that your way of explaining your personal experiences and your approach to a topic can speak to someone in a way that no one else can. And you actually don't have to be an expert to share what you've learned. So how has this journey led me to become the documentation team lead at Virtual Coffee? Here's the truth. I'm actually a shy introvert. I know. Shy and introverted are not ideal combination, right? Well, maybe, but one good thing that they bring out of me is that they make me more observant. Before we go further, I want to go back a little bit to my habit of taking notes. So I take notes not only when I'm learning, but also when documenting things. And not only about programming, but also about community. I write down things that are interesting, the pain points that people encounter, things that can be improved, things that work, well, basically anything. So through the community monthly challenges and virtual hangouts, I became more involved in Virtual Coffee. I like to welcome new members and help them answer questions. And from there, I started to notice repeated questions and confusion. For example, not everyone was familiar with Slack, right? So questions like, what channels do we have? Or how can I join a channel? Or, in what channel should I post these questions are often being asked. And responses like, hey, can you provide the code so we can understand your question better? Or can you please reply in the thread so everyone can follow the conversation? And here is how you do it. Well, lots to be seen there. I thought, this is interesting. What can we do here to help folks? So I observed, again, took notes, and I took this initiative. I made a list of our Slack channels and what they're for on Google Docs, and I also wrote a short tutorial on how to use Slack. I showed them to our maintainers, and they shared them with the community. From there, I compiled more notes to help people on board. Finally, these notes became our community handbook, which you can now find on our website, virtualcoffee.io. They mark my first major documentation contribution to open source. After this contribution, one of our maintainers, Becca, asked me if I'd like to be the documentation team lead at Virtual Coffee. And it was one of my happy days when I said, yes, I do. Later on, it also opened for me to contribute more to open source projects and become an open source maintainer. I also got the opportunity to co-create an open source course called Becoming a Maintainer. So through this, I learned that helping others and being a part of a tech community can make it easier for you to start writing and get into open source. Now, if you're interested in tech writing and want to start writing, I have some tips for you. Have you ever heard yourself thinking, I want to write, but I don't know what to write? Well, the simple way to start is to write about things that you are learning and that you find interesting. Or, if you solve a problem, you can walk through your process of solving it. And you don't need to be an expert in it. You can write based on, your experiences and your findings. Imagine you revisit and read your article. If you've learned something from it that is helpful for you, it most likely would also benefit someone else. Finding your niche. In the beginning, don't sweat about this. Just write anything you want. With time, you will know which direction you'll go. Finding your niche can help you go deep into a topic and gain audiences. That's because your audiences will know you as someone knowledgeable and trustworthy in that topic. Consistency is key. Like the saying, practice makes perfect, consistency will help you be better at writing and be a better writer. You can write and publish your article once a week, every other week, or even once a month. What you want here is to create that habit of writing and build your presence. However, if you're just beginning, you want to publish more frequently to put yourself out there. Then asking questions and help. Like in coding, asking questions is a skill you want to have in writing. Let's say you're writing product documentation about a software and its features, okay? So you have to run and test this software to see how it works, right? But some things do not work as expected, and you've done your research, but you still get stuck. You want to ask the developers some questions to help you get unstuck. That way, you can finish writing the docs and ensure everything that you write is accurate. Another thing is, you want to ask someone to help proofread your article and let you know if everything you write makes sense. Now, let's talk about tools. What are the tools that you might need in writing? You're probably already familiar with this one, Grammarly app. It can help you check for typos and grammar mistakes. But, You also want to make sure that your article is bold and clear so it'll be easy to read and understand. You can check out the Hemingway Editor app to achieve this. Next is Canva. You can use Canva to create your article's cover image because, a customized and personalized cover image can help your article stand out and build your presence. I mean, personal brand. Then there's AI. You can use AI to research, as you do with Google, or to create a first draft to save yourself some time. But never use it to write your article. People would know if an AI writes an article because most of the time it doesn't sound like it's written by a human, right? Well, more importantly, if you're not too familiar with the topic and solely using AI to write your article, when you receive feedback or questions, you might have a hard time answering them. And that can make you lose your reader's trust. No matter what, you have to be the authentic you. Your voice and current knowledge are what matters the most here. And once you're done writing, cross-post your article to other tech blogging platforms to reach broader audiences. And don't forget to share with your community and social media to reach even wider audiences. Well, we're almost at the end of my talk. So, for you who's interested in tech writing or want to get involved in open source through writing and documentation, my advice is just start. Don't let fear and doubt hold you back and never wait for perfection. Find and join a community that can support your journey along the way. But the most important thing that you can do right now is start to write for yourself for the future you. Because you will be the first person you help, and you'll always be your own audience. And with time, the rest will follow. You need to know that your experiences, whether big or small, are valuable. Every word you write has the potential to inspire others, and every article you share can help someone. And lastly, I want to say thank you, everyone, for being here and for listening to my talk.
Thank you so much, Ayu. It's I love how tech writing has opened your doors to the open source and tech world in general. And unfortunately, when it comes to open source, it's still an overlooked path, I would say. My
Yeah.
personal experience, but hopefully that will change now after your great presentation. And also, we have reached amazing milestones that you shared with
Thank
us,
you.
and especially when you talked about Quincy Larson, I can relate so much. If he's somehow in any way contacting you, or you see a notification that Quincy Larson does anything related what you have posted or anything, oh my!
Yeah,
I
right.
think this is I think this is really a milestone as a developer or as a self-taught developer, maybe, that one day Quincy Larson will recognize that you're existing. This is, oh my god, I change everything. I love it.
Yeah, I
And
mean, like, I really have to thanks my friend Jessica Wilkins, because I didn't notice that it was on newsletter, and she said like, "Hey, your article is on his newsletter, so this is kind of like a
nice.
cool thing." And I was
Yeah.
like, seriously, I
Yeah,
didn't even
I can
notice.
feel it. Yeah, that's amazing, amazing. And also already many participants have already written here in the chat that they also want to start writing, or now they maybe go back to writing, do it. So you already have motivated them. Very, very nice. You got some great comments. You should check them out. We have time enough to check them out. I think no real question now, but I will bring also everyone back on stage in case if you want to talk about some of the comments, give your additional thoughts or anything. If you have anything to say now, go ahead. Otherwise, I would say my last part of thank you to everyone. Bring everyone on stage, and can everyone has a chance to say something again while you are reading the comments.
Yeah, I'm reading all your comments, friends. Thank you so much.
I will bring them. Because Ayu was already our last speaker for today's event, and you can turn on your video or not. It's as you wish. I want to say to all of you that I'm so grateful to the speakers that you all took the time and agreed to my request to come to the virtual stage as a speaker at my very first organized event with others involved, not only me. So I'm very grateful that you found it interesting enough to share your experience and insights or research. What you had, and and also thank you to all the attendees who joined us today. I'm sure that we will all take something away from the insights and personal experience which were shared today. And for the updates on this event, follow-up reports and answers to open questions and the slides and the recording, this will follow up in the next few days. And you can also visit the womentechmakers.at website. You can follow Women Techmakers Vienna on Twitter or follow and contact each speaker personally on their social media. I think most of them shared their LinkedIn or Twitter, wherever they were on. And you will also find the slides and recordings on the GTG Vienna website where you registered for the event. So in a few days, there will be all these things available. Of course, also the slides from each speaker. So everyone is on stage now. If there are additional comments, thoughts, I don't know what everyone has to say, say it. Now it's the time if you want to, before closing the event. Thank you, Nivedita. I tried my best. Next year, I plan to do the International Women's Day event in person in Vienna. So it would also be great to have the speakers back again or as an attendee. I also try to do next year the Women Techmakers main event. I think in autumn, it's always in autumn, also as an in-person event here in Vienna. This both would be an whole day event. It would be great to see some of you there. Also from the attendees, of course, of the participants, but next year it will be even larger, bigger, more women, more inspiring stories.
Just wanted to thank you, Julia, for organizing this great event and getting us all on stage. I think I was really honored to have my first talk here alongside these great women. And I also shared it in the comments. There were so many great personal stories, and you have to do and get out of your comfort zone and try. Even if you fail, it's something where you can learn from it. And it was so inspiring, and I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. Okay, then if no one else wants to share something, then thank you for joining. Have a nice evening or day or wherever you are, and see you at the next event. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.